Come not between the dragon and his wrath. Shakespeare, King Lear. And welcome to the next edition of the Rancor Pit. Well, I know I've been slacking, but real life happens, and that's quite okay. But this time I told you guys that I was going to go ahead and jump to another one of my Old World of Darkness elders. I did John, my Garral, and I did Eric, my kinfolk turned skin dancer. So, my other really big character that I ran on the UnMods for a great number of years, it was very influential in a lot of things that I did, my Mokolé elder. Yeah. A lot of people who played the Old World of Darkness that had really strong opinions about the breed books didn't like Mokolé. They said it was really overpowered. They are essentially were-dragons. And I know that sounds like really freaking cool, and it is, because it touches on everything within the world of darkness that came first. They were the oldest beings that Gaia created, and when Gaia created them, she had to create them for their memory to keep things, forever stored in the annals of the universe and all of time. And that gives them the very powerful ability to reach back to those old memories and to remember what it used to be like. I don't particularly think that Mokolé are more overpowered, no more than Rokea are, were-sharks, because honestly, a lot of people will say, well, were-sharks, it's just a killing machine. You're just going to go play a game that's going to be nothing but combat. Well, that's not true, because you can run a Guru, a werewolf game, just the same way. It's nothing but combat. If you want that, then you could pick any of the Farah and say, well, it's going to be combat heavy. Everybody just make the Alrune equivalent and just go nuts with a whole bunch of stats. Mokolé are incredibly rich because they deal with things that like no other changing breed does at all. No form, no fashion, nothing anywhere even close to what Mokolé actually deal with. And JD is particularly special to me for a different reason altogether. Now, Johnny Oso, my Garral, I said that I put a lot of my inner thoughts and beings into him, and I did. And I do, within the world of darkness, I do identify with Garral more than anything else. But JD's special for a different reason. Right about the time that I was being, for lack of a better word or phrase, kicked out of my original gaming group. I had just made JD, and it was in his first incarnation. Now, I didn't know what to name him. I knew what his deed name was going to be. Deed names they're very important to shifters because they're a spiritual identification. Johnny's was Thunderpaws. Eric didn't have one because he's a skin dancer, but I didn't know what I was going to call my Mokolé until I looked at the whole name. Now, the whole name's very long, but considering what he does, JD is short for Judge for Dragon, Law by Hands. And originally I was going to make him specifically of the auspice that went around and dealt with other problems, another problem Mokolé. So he was going to have a gift eventually, because when I made him, he was, rank 1. He was eventually going to have a gift that was going to give him the ability to have silver and gold claws. Mokolé are unique. They're the only ones that are affected by dual metal. Pretty much, the Koraks are affected only by gold. Everything else is pretty much affected by silver, and Nowish is not affected by anything. They're were-coyotes. But Mokolé, Luna and Helios, silver and gold. He was going to have those gifts because he was going to go basically hunting for the traitors, or those that had fallen to the Dissolver, to the Wyrm, to the evil entity. And right after I got him on paper, I got unofficially and unceremoniously kicked out of my gaming group. The reason? I was told that I wasn't a good player. I've touched on this before in past vlogs. My DM said that I'm not a very good player. So right after I started making my own stuff, JD just cropped back in my head and I said, well, okay. I was playing a whole lot on the UnMods. I was making everything legally, so, or not legally, but I should say by the rules. So I said, fine. I flushed him on the UnMods, used him, and he turned out really, really well. Well, I used him for a long time. XP accrues, gets spent, adventures happen, things occur. He gets brought into John's storyline because I needed a separate personality involved with things for very specific reasons. He's way different than anything else I had made up to that point, which oddly enough wasn't much. JD was one of my first. But he embodied basically another part of my psyche that wasn't in any other character. And whenever I played him, he became very well known. Because I would go around the UnMods. Pardon me. King of one takes. I would go around the UnMods and specifically look for players who were, rule bending, rule breaking, walking down the street with a katana brandished, or shooting up, random places, and not expecting anybody to come along and do anything about it. I wasn't picking fights, but I was looking for specifically situations and things that JD would be around. If it was something he would be around, I brought him into the room. I had a problem with a lot of people fleeing because they had heard what he did. What he did was I PK'd a couple of characters. Player killed. I mean, he's a judge. Wrongdoing, veil breaking, delirium inducing. What the hell's the matter with you? You're shifting in public. You're a vampire. You're a being of the dissolver. You're a mage, a shifter of all reality. You gotta go. So he got a bit of a nasty reputation, but it didn't matter. I played him long enough that he, much like John, became an elder. Whenever I did the big storyline with John at the cabin, at the ranger station cabin anyway, and I had like all the other players that were coming into the storyline, which was like an entire pack of Guru. So this was like 6-7 other players bringing their Guru characters that are constant, by name known in other rooms, into my room. The room ended up being like 15 people. I locked the room because it was a private game, and JD came in there because I had him cross-know John through a different character altogether, somebody else on the chats. So whenever they basically culminated, what the storyline started out as is in the area where John had his ranger station, deep in the forest, there had been some toxification of some water coming from Vermilion Falls off of Big Bear Canyon. Well, being a Goral, you have to take care of Mother Gaia, Mother Earth, and deal with the corruption and pollution and find out the source and fix it, and detoxify it. So he did that. He also did that. He almost got himself killed in the process. So that's when he started calling in people for help. A whole pack of Guru showed up that knew John from before. And then I had JD show up. So I'm sitting there double screening. I'm split screening this whole thing, running it from John's screen. And split screening the whole thing myself. And I was basically the storyteller for everybody. It was like 15 people that were in there. So the whole Guru tribe, some of their kinfolk, John's wife, his kinfolk, the kids, and some other just Guru that weren't even packed. Well, they go and find where the company was, and it was a Pentex subsidiary, and Pentex is the ultimate evil mega conglomerate company. And it was one of the subsidiaries that was dealing with waste management, and they were dumping it into a cave way up in the mountains. Well, basically, the shifters all culminated their plan. They were going to basically tear apart the camp and stop the dumping and find out who was responsible. Well, I wanted to make it pretty difficult because I was dealing with a whole bunch of players. They weren't all starting level characters. So I said, okay, we're going to start this. I'll take lead, go with it. And it turned into a severe, screw job. A lot of the other guru in the pack got hurt, and it almost was like they were half ready for an ambush. Nobody tipped them off, but then again, the evil company is tied to the Wyrm. The Wyrm itself also has its spies and agents. The agents informed, people there's some, there's some Gaians or shifters coming. So, and the place was, of course, riddled with banes. It ended up that the caves they were dumping it in was an old hive. Hive in Guru term is a place where black spiral dancers go to culminate the worship of Father instead of Mother. And that's the evil entity that is the Wyrm. And sometimes whenever hives are broken and the black spiral dancers are either moved or vacated, old places like that just have like residual like taint that is always going to be there. Well, they were dumping it into a hive trying to reactivate it. So there was banes everywhere, Well, it turned out that there was only one real way to stop the pollution that was already there. And nobody had the spiritual power or energy left to do anything except JD. And what he did, it was self-sacrificial is what it was. One of the abilities that Mokolé have is, and forgive me, it's been quite a long time since I've done any White Wolfing, let alone in playing any Mokolé. So I can't remember if it's a right or a gift. What's the difference? A gift is sort of like your normal powers, right? It's based on, a particular role. Sometimes it takes Gnosis, the power of the spiritual world, in order to activate it. And it gives you abilities, powers, and every Mokolé has gifts, like any Guru, like any Garal, like any Ratkin, like any Nuwisha. They all have gifts because that's their gift from Mother Gaia and Luna. But rights are something specific. Now, because JD was a judge, he was a rights master in and of itself. He had a lot of rights at his disposal, and some of the rights are particularly nasty. Remember, he was an elder. It's a gift. I'm looking at all the rights here and I don't see it. It's a gift. It's a very high level gift. In order to stop the corruption that was already there and to stop the rest of the toxins, which was essentially Wyrm toxin, it was nuclear waste. From leaching in any further from the sources that were already there, he had to use a very powerful gift. It basically made him an aspect of what he is, or maybe an avatar is a better word. Mokolé venerate Mother, the dragon, the ultimate creation of everything that is essentially a face of Gaia. And with this gift, you become an avatar of the dragon for a short period of time. And pretty much you're guaranteed to die in the aftermath. It's pretty much a last-ditch effort kind of thing. That's what this was. The whole Guru pack that was there, they didn't come equipped with dealing with that much toxin. John could clean certain amounts of land, but it came at expenditure of his own blood. So he literally had to cut himself, spread it all over, basically grind it with dirt and spread that dirt over a particular area, and it would neutralize the toxin. But he would have died in the process, and it wouldn't have done that much. JD volunteered himself. He became an aspect of dragon, a totem essentially, and literally burned it with spiritual fire. He neutralized it. He got rid of it all. And it was like this huge, horrific, almost like a nuke going off in the area. And one of the Guru, she'd been around John's place a whole bunch, so he'd interacted with her plenty. I knew who the player was. She saw what JD did, selflessly sacrificing himself like that in order to pretty much spiritually blast and neutralize every bit of Wyrm toxin in the area at the vicious cost of his own life. So she petitioned to Gaia herself and to her the main totem of her clan, which was Silent Striders, and she petitioned to go get his soul to bring him back. She won. It was difficult, but she won, so she actually got a chance to travel to the Deep Umbra, the farthest part of the spiritual realms that there are, where the dead go. You're not supposed to go there when you're alive, ever. And she went there. Silent Striders, they're good for that, though. They deal with a lot of things like that, and they deal with death a whole bunch, and they deal with long distances of travel, which it was. It took like a year for her to get to where he was, and she brought his soul back, gave him a second chance, and it was just because of the heroism that he was willing to do. No questions asked, no second thoughts, no, maybe we ought to talk about this. No, it was literally, every one of you get out of the area by at least 5 miles. This ain't gonna be pretty. Now, granted, it basically blasted the land for that area, but it put the land to sleep. Because it was spiritual fire, it wasn't corrupting. There was nothing there, right? So, she brought him back, and whenever he came back, by the way, this all happened in character. All of this was story told, the whole thing. Whenever he came back, he took on a more, I don't want to say fatherly, because that may be a misnomer. He took on a more mentor quality. The Guru pack who was there, who saw what happened, who oddly enough, I think I remember, was called Bad Company. I think I'm pretty sure. It was a couple of individuals, and then I think I remember it was either the Alpha or the Bravo, which means either the leader or the sub-leader. Was the deed name, he was a Glasswalker, he was named Blue Screen of Death. Yeah, Glasswalkers are like techno-wolves, like that use technology and guns and stuff like that, as opposed to most of the Guru who don't. I think that was Bad Company, and he was Blue Screen of Death was his deed name. It makes total sense for a Glasswalker to have a computer jargon deed name. So, he basically became mentored in the pack. Other Guru that heard about what happened, meaning other Guru that were not a part of the Chronicle, who were still in the UnMods, who were either a part of other Chronicles of their own, or who had just passionately had heard the name, came to him in character as well, looking for wisdom. He became a real, staple for people to go seek out for wisdom and knowing stuff and knowing deeper, obviously, knowledges. Not only to the fact that he's a Mokolé because he remembers everything, because they have a power called Mnesis, which is essentially remembering the past in a huge, massive ancestral chain of the past, going back to the creation of existence. Not only did he have that, but he had the innate knowledge of the death realm that nobody has, because you die, you don't come back. So he became really fun to play. Just if I wasn't in the mood to play John, I didn't have my players to play Eric, and I didn't want to do anything else, I'd bring on JD, and then people would just, come looking for scenes or wisdom or whatever, or even help with their own Chronicles, basically not trying to pull me in, but trying to integrate, the young, Guru. Hey, I talked to a Mokolé, he didn't bite my face off, and he helped us with our problem, that kind of thing. So, and it also helps the fact, because I was an ST and not a straight, constant player, I knew the books. I knew the histories because I read them cover to cover. I knew the core book. I had almost all the changing books. I knew all of it. This was back when I was severe into White-Wolf, and I was not into D&D, and I hadn't got into Star Wars RCR yet. So I knew the books. I knew all the books. And if you guys wanted to run the scene, I could run it, or I could be a part of it, and I would be able to play my character to an absolute perfect T because of it. So JD was special to me because eventually I got the chance to actually retire him. He had done a whole lot, and this was over a number of years on the UnMods. He basically swam out to an island in Micronesia. It wasn't like Fiji or anything. It was somewhere in, I forget what the hell it was, Vanuatu area or something like that. And he basically stayed there. He helped the locals. He protected the entire island. He was the Mokolé on the island. He ended up taking a few dots of kinfolk, so we had the other reptilians and saurials in the area, basically as part of his, his clutch, his adopted clutch, because he never actually had kids. And I just basically retired him into the NPC chest you go to, until I need to pull you out for whatever reason. And oddly enough, I never have had to pull him out. I did with John because I did a whole nother campaign whenever it was like Old Man John. And then I retired him, and then I started playing his son Juniper. So JD went in my NPC chest because I did so much with him. It was time to give him a break, so I made a new character. I made other new characters as subsequent. So yeah, JD was rather special to me, and yeah, I didn't. I don't even think I remember giving him a face. Most characters I tried to give faces to. Most of them were like known actors in certain roles that fit exactly what I was looking for. John I kind of gave a face to, but it was like a stock photo almost. JD I never gave a face to, but I knew because he was Mokolé-mbembe, a type of Mokolé. He was from the New World. He was from the Americas, so he could have been anywhere from to the top of Canada down to all the way down to the tip of Chile. So I just, and as a matter of fact, I think I made him like African or like West African coast, like immigrant family to like Central America maybe. I forget because it's been so long since I played John, JD, any of the shifters, or Mokolé for that matter, because there's so few of them left. Due to the fact that they were almost completely destroyed in the War of Rage, playing a Mokolé is something very special. Everybody else is going to play a Guru. I want to play a Mokolé. Okay, that's fine. Whole Mokolé games are no different than whole Goral games, whole Rokea games, whole Rat King games. They're really, really fun, but you gotta know the book is the problem. And not too many people read books, at least the way I used to, like I do. So, anyway, we're gonna go ahead and cut the vlog short. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Give it a share out to the rest of the interwebs. If this is your first vlog, welcome to the Rancor Pit. And I try to do these once a week and a half. I really try. I'm on Twitter. If you guys go take a look, I'll probably end up linking my Twitter account here eventually because I'm just lazy and haven't done it yet. I do have a Twitter account, and I link there for like asking questions and polls from the Rancor Pit, and I hashtag the Rancor Pit. And I'm pretty much the only one who uses that hashtag on Twitter, so it's kind of mine. So I do that on Facebook, I do it on Twitter, and please, by all means, any questions, comments, put them down below. And next time I put a poll on Twitter, I want to see who votes and what we're going to do next for our next video. But till then, grab your dice and roll initiative.